Hey, everybody, it's Tony George along with Scott Spreitzer right there in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we are talking about a little bit of post-mortem over the weekend. A lot of carnage in the Survivor contest out at Circle. We'll talk about that in a minute. Scott's backyard. And then we're going to give you some look-ahead picks at the end of the show. So we're going to start adding some early line value picks. And, of course, Scott Spreitzer had a better Sunday than I had, because I'll tell you why. We had competing sides on the Seattle-Tampa Bay game. I did have a 7-unit position on Seattle. I did not know they were checking their defense at the front door before the game started. Apparently, Scott, who had a 6-unit position on him, must have known that and not shared that information with me. But nonetheless, what a shootout, and what a Scott, I got to ask you a question. All of Tampa's wins have come in the final 2 minutes of the game, and Baker Mayfield is just working magic this year. Of all the quarterbacks in the NFL, Scott, right now, if the game's on the line, I'm not asking for Mahomes. I'm asking for Mayfield.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, first of all, one of the easiest wins I've had all year. Just kidding. But you and I talked on Friday, I think, right? The day after we give out our plays, and we're like, crap, we should have talked Thursday morning, because it's not often we like to line up against each other, but that was the case. So anyway, 35-28 Seattle, couple minutes to go. I'm texting back and forth with a buddy of mine here in town who's not in our business, but he bets for a living. That's all he does. And I said, he was like, damn it, we just gave up a touchdown. He had him also, Tampa. And I'm like, no. We got him right where we want him. We're down 7. Baker at quarterback, minute and a half, 2 minutes to go. And, he scores a touchdown. Now, at that point, because they're on the road, I'm going, go for two, because I don't care if he makes it or not, at that point. And
I do.
Of course you do. He kicks the extra point, and they go to overtime. I'm like, damn, And then they end up winning because of that pick by Darnold, which just a bad choice in passes, and he was under a rush. 50-50 game, is what it ended up being. And I was the lucky one in that one. But, man, right now, to answer your question, give me Baker. I mean, if there's a minute to go in the game and I'm down by, less 8 points or less, put Baker Mayfield on my team, because the confidence is unbelievable. You got to have an ego to do things in a big way, and you got to be cocky, a healthy cockiness, and he sure is. Oh, my gosh. You just look at him, and he's like, all right, let's go win this game now. We're down 7 with 4 seconds to go at our own 5-yard line. Let's go win.
You tell me, before that game, anybody would have bet, without Mike Evans, his number one target in the game, and missing Bucky Irving against that defense in Seattle, that he was going to throw for 330 plus yards. You told me I was crazy. And
they got a nice backup running back who could fill in for Irving.
White's good.
They have the young kid at wide receiver, Ibuka. Is that his name? Yeah. Anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm like thinking, all right. But here's the thing, Tony. I mean, let me just be candid about this whole thing. I'm thinking like Tampa 23-20, not 38-35. And sometimes you get a win on a game you handicapped that didn't go exactly how you thought it would, but you happen to get the win. And it's like when you lose a game where you had everything right except for the final score. Right side, right handicap, wrong side, or wrong, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Right side, wrong final score. And so it's one of those situations where I thought it was going to be about a 23-20 win for Tampa, and there were a lot more points scored. Exactly right. I didn't see Baker Mayfield throwing for 300 plus in this game.
Yeah, it was one of the better games I've seen all year. If you like offense, that was one that for the record books. And obviously, I came out on the wrong side, and I just did not see. I read it wrong. I thought Seattle's defense was better than that. I thought and that's a tough road trip from Tampa to Seattle. I mean, that's about as far as you can go in football, other than Miami to Seattle. But nonetheless, a 2-2 day, but lost a couple units, had a good Saturday. I like, Scott, people say, boy, I sure wish I could do your job for a living. And whenever we lose a play, you get on social media or even the comment section here on the YouTube channel. And it's like, boy, all I had to do was sit around and watch games all weekend and look at sports and analyze sports, I could win 65%, 70% of the time, all the time. Well, let me tell you something. Apparently, people can't even pick straight up winners because 75% of the 17,000 people in the Circus Survivor contest are out after week 5. Folks, those are people that come out to Vegas, get out there. We're going to piss in the tall wheat with the big dogs, and we're going to show those boys like Spreitzer and George up. We're just as smart as they are. And by the way, you don't even have to have a point spread involved. 75% of them are out, Scott.
Yep.
Arizona and the Rams also just killed everybody, including 4 or 5 of my buddies that were in this thing were all on Arizona. One was on the Rams on Thursday. And then I think Lenny also was on the Rams on Thursday, our producer. And then, of course, yesterday, Arizona, total carnage in that.
DiMaccardo, my gosh, 70-yard run, and he drops the ball right before he goes into the end zone. They go up 28-6 if he just holds on to the ball for one split second longer, 1/10 of a second. Yeah. And instead, he had to drop the ball inside the 1, and that was that. Tennessee made a big comeback. I don't get into the Survivor, Tony, because I've been thinking point spread. I made my first bet when I was 12. It was a Creighton DePaul basketball game through my dad's bookie. I've been thinking point spreads for all those years. And I don't get into the Survivor because, first of all, I think you need about 10 or 12 entries to have a legit shot to win the whole thing. Yeah. My personal feeling. And I don't like picking straight up winners. I know that sounds crazy, folks, but that's the way it is. I'm always thinking about the point spread and the value against the spread and all that kind of, whatever. So for me, it's something I've stayed away from. But my gosh, I had a couple of friends who were on Arizona yesterday. And when he dropped that ball before the goal line, they're like, here we go. Here we go. I got one buddy in it who's got 8 cards, and he lost 2 cards on that play, basically, more than that play, but that play turned the whole thing around. Real quick note on some coaching in that game. Brian Callahan of Tennessee, dude, you got to read a book about analytics. I mean, my gosh, doesn't go for 2 when he should, gets the lucky win with the dropped fumble before the goal line. Zach Taylor, a former Nebraska quarterback, Tony, did the same thing in Cincy. You know who was a great coach yesterday and who understands analytics and ain't afraid to use them? Sean Payton. He goes for 2, down 17-16 in Philly, 7 minutes to go, fourth quarter, goes for 2, gets it. They win the football game. Some of these guys, I'm like, listen, you got to have a decent brain on your shoulders to be a head coach, offensive coordinator, DC, whatever in the NFL. But can you pay attention to what you're supposed to do in certain situations? Difference between an elite coach and an okay coach.
Well, I'm going to give out, first I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to give out my pick a little early because it's going to be in the NFL before I think the line moves. Mm-hmm. But quick question. Who is really the contender? The Buccaneers or the Colts? Who do you believe in more right now?
Whew. Good question.
Yeah.
Tough question.
Thought about that. I thought that up all by myself too.
For right now, I'm going to – well, that's pretty good, damn it. Was that what you thought of when you were brushing that hair? I mean –
Yeah. Still trying to get over that my wife cuts my hair. I said, make me look like Potsy from Happy Days, and she took it as a challenge.
Anyway, I'm kidding. I got no place to go with hair, man. It's all gone.
Don't get me started, dude. I'm still being – I've already given you credit for beating me yesterday for top pick. Now, if I got to start getting sarcastic, you're not going to like it.
Tony, it's a good thing I'm 6'1" because nobody sees the amount of bald spot I've got on the top of my head. But anyway, let me see. I'm going to lean Indy. And the reason I'm going to lean Indy is because Tampa Bay's winning every game in the last minute because of incredible comebacks, super belief system in their quarterback. Eventually that, I think, comes back to earth a little bit. And if they're behind with a minute or 2 to go at the, 7 points, 6 points, whatever, they're not going to keep winning these games. Now, I probably said that about KC in 1-score games around this time last year, and they went on to win 11 or 12 1-score games. But I would say Indy for that reason. I think because when they do get a lead or they do get leads, they're not having to fight like crazy to come back down the stretch. Tampa Bay's having to do that, as you mentioned, every one of their wins. It's a minute or 2 to go when he's driving his team downfield to get that win.
Well, I'm going to take Tampa Bay early this week before people start really overreacting. And they're currently -2 over San Francisco at home. And I know San Francisco's had a little time to get healthy, but they're still beat up at a lot of key positions. And I think Tampa Bay's the real deal. I had made a big futures bet on them to win that division and a bunch of other season win total. I was all in on Tampa Bay before the year started, talked about it on a lot of the preseason shows, and I'm one of the few that have been a Baker Mayfield fan since day one, since he was playing at Oklahoma. I said, this guy he's a poor man's Brett Favre, and he's acting like really not a poor man's Brett Favre. He's just acting flat out like Brett Favre right now. And that's going to go up. People are going to buy into it during the week, and people are going to start talking about how great they are. And that's going to get right up on that fall number of 3. So I'll bet that one early a little bit. I'm not talking about unloading grandma's farm on it. I'm talking about a little pizza money bet early, folks. Let's switch gears to college football. Scott will give you his pick at the end of the show. Total carnage in college football. Upsets all over the place. Texas gets smacked around. Arch Manning, his Heisman days are, put that on a headstone somewhere. It's over. There is absolutely, we know that James Franklin can't win big games, but to lose that game against UCLA is almost just a miscarriage of justice. And I thought the Alabama, I really enjoyed the Alabama Vandy game. Vandy let that get away from them late, but they were in there for 3 quarters. But your thoughts overall I don't think Texas losing to Florida was it like a shock? I was a little surprised. I wouldn't be, but Penn State losing outright to UCLA, Scott. Very rarely am I shocked anymore, at something, because you and I have been doing this 30-some years each. I mean, we've seen every time you and I over the last 35 years or whatever it's been between, 60-some years between the two of us, hundreds of thousands of games that we've watched. We always say, boy, didn't see that coming. Boy, I just thought I'd never see that. And I keep saying, but that Penn State, that's the biggest shocker I've seen in a couple of years.
They were flat as it gets at the start of the game, and they ran into a team that finally has a coaching staff.
Yeah.
Everybody should have known what was going to happen with Deshaun Foster at his very first media day last year.
Yeah.
When he got up there and was deer in the headlights for 30 seconds. So they got a coaching staff. They got a great OC, Neuheisel's kid, man. He played at UCLA, a dozen years ago or whatever it was. Yep. And he's opened up the offense. And it's like, really? If you throw the ball downfield, you might gain yards. It's like, they got a good quarterback in Nico. I know people root against Nico for what he did at Tennessee. I get it. But he's a talent. There's no doubt about it. And now he's got an OC. But, on the flip side, Penn State was as flat as it gets. Basically what happened is Oregon beat them 2 weeks in a row. They were still thinking about losing to the Ducks in a whiteout in Happy Valley, and they were not ready. They were not prepared. That's on the coaching staff when you're
that's coaching though. That's my point. That's coaching.
James Franklin, I texted somebody in the second quarter and I said, who convinced James Franklin this was a big game? Because we know what he does in big games. So again, that's on him, and I guess he made the flight back. They allowed him on the plane, but things are getting a little tight around the collar at Happy Valley. That was the biggest surprise, obviously, of the season thus far. 0-5 UCLA team beating a previous number 1 or number 2 team that's now out of the top 25. Yeah. Arch Manning, when your coach comes out and says, boy, we see a different and better Arch Manning in practice, great. Let him practice. Got to do something about the starting quarterback position. If they win the Red River shootout this week, sorry, I still call it the shootout. If they win it this week against Oklahoma, they're not back in the mix, but they're at least back in the top 20 and a viable team again, as long as Arch isn't throwing picks. They'd love to go get Colton Joseph out of Old Dominion, I bet. That kid is tearing it up. Watch him, folks. He's not even mentioned on any Heisman list. This kid's the real deal, Colton Joseph, as far as a college quarterback.
Yeah. Put a gun to my head. I haven't seen the line, in the OU Texas game. I can only lean Oklahoma there.
Yeah,
I
haven't jumped into it.
I kept hearing about how great Texas's defense was. I put Texas out as a free video play because I thought their defense was good.
Yeah.
And Florida couldn't get, lap dance in a monkey whorehouse, fistful of bananas, I like to say. And they went up and hung 29 on them. And Manning looked like a deer caught in the headlights in big moments. Sarkisian, again, not able to call a big play and finish one. He's a poor man's James Franklin.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma rolling around here. I don't know what the status of Mateer is yet, but and of course, a 44-0 romp over Kent State shows you nothing.
Right.
But right now, did you look up a line?
Yeah, I was just checking. It's 2.5 in most shops still, or thereabout. But as far as Mateer, I was checking that out this morning, and he's still listed as doubtful. So we'll see if he practices on Wednesday or Thursday before we can really judge that. And I won't get involved until I find out if he's going to practice or not. But I would lean, OU, you've got the defensive genius in Venables. Whether you like him or not, folks, as a head coach, he's having a good year this year so far. But he is a defensive genius. And we saw what he did with Michigan, bringing a freshman quarterback to Norman. Now, this one's obviously on a neutral site, but he's the kind of guy who, if he sees weaknesses in Arch Manning's game, he's going to do all he can to exploit it. And so far, it's not trying to pick on the kid, but it's not tough to have to find Arch Manning weaknesses. And that's unfortunate. Seems like a really good kid. But right now, I would lean OU. But again, I got to find out more about Mateer because I'm not crazy about this OU offense.
Yeah. One offense and one team I am crazy about, and each week they keep proving me. Now, obviously, I think Miami's the best team in the country, but if you don't have your radar antenna up on Texas Tech right now, you're out of your friggin' mind. That's a good football team. They spent more in the portal and nil money than any other team out there, more than Alabama, more than Georgia, but at day's end, they just hung 552 yards on Houston. I had them on Sunday on my premium card, and I'm telling you, Scott, they're the real deal.
Tony, I had a 9-1 weekend. The one loss was a 2-star play on Houston. I thought they would be a little bit more physical on defense, but the best team that money can buy on the field was Texas Tech, and that's the way it's going to be. Call them Oregon Junior if you want. They went out and got these deep pocket donors, and these guys are putting, hundreds of millions into the program. There's a couple of groups out there that I trust who power rate coaches, head coaches. Out of all the teams in the Big 12, what are there, 17 of them now or whatever, the Texas Tech head coach was power rated before the season second to last out of all the teams in the Big 12, second to last.
Yeah.
And yet he might win a national title. Yeah. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
No.
They went out and got all the players money could buy. They're having a great recruiting class again because of that stuff called cabbage. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be tough to beat this program for a couple of years as long as these big donors are there. The group On 3, back in, I think, June, they looked at the last 2 years, college football teams that spend the most money. Number 2, Texas Tech, only behind Ohio State.
Yeah. Very quickly, and I know you might have a point or two and a pick here. We'll get folks out of here. Doc Sports is where you find us. We have a free $60, a link in the description here below the video. Right there it is. There's the link. You can type it in. You can go to the website. And of course, it's in the upper left-hand corner. There's a tab. We'll park $60 in a new account. Comes with a profit guarantee. You might want to catch Mr. Spreitzer off a 9-1 weekend. I'm glad I feel a little vindicated now since I had Texas Tech and you had Houston. It doesn't make up for the Seattle loss, but I feel a little bit better.
Tony, anytime I can trade you
at least I'm even Steven with the legend. That's all I care about. So
anytime I can trade you a 6-star for a 2-star, I'll go ahead and do it.
No shit.
No, nice call at Texas Tech. I'm
a buyer. I've been a buyer. I bet him to win the Big 12 title this year over Arizona. I thought Arizona State would lose to Scattaboo. I knew they had their, but he was about 80% of their offense last year. I thought it'd take him a while to adjust, which would cost them a couple of losses, and it did early, especially against Mississippi State. Very quickly, how would you like to have this schedule? Georgia on a neutral site, Vanderbilt in a big revenge game, and now you're on the road at Missouri. And you have Tennessee on deck. Who the hell wants that schedule? Well, guess what, folks? Alabama's got it. They're laying 3 at Missouri here off a bye week, I believe, here. So, Scott, interesting game for Alabama this week. Just your top of your head thoughts on that one.
Well, yeah, Rickenbach and I, this was one of the like 8 or 9 games that we talked about. We do a Sunday night show, Scott and Scott, and it's an early value show. We talk about the Sunday afternoon immediate sharp line moves. It's not public influenced. And this was one of the games. And Mizzou on Sunday afternoon went from +5 to +3.5 to +3. All the money coming in on the Tigers, all sharp action, of course. There's no public money out there on a Sunday afternoon for the next week. And the one thing that I said, the little caveat here, and the schedule is crazy for Bama, and maybe they go into Faurot Field. We know from old Big 8 days how tough it is to play in Columbia.
Very tough.
But the bottom line is that Missouri's played nobody. I mean, we're talking Charmin soft schedule. That's the one thing that concerns me a little bit. That doesn't mean I'm on Missouri and not on Bama this week, because with that line dropping, the value's gone on Mizzou.
Yeah,
So
that's
5
just
down
it.
to 3. I mean, come on. So if folks like it a lot and they've got reasons, I'm not worried about the point spread. Okay. But yeah, I dig into that a little bit more because, again, Missouri has not played anybody of note really in 2025, and Alabama's certainly battle tested.
Yeah, well, it's going to cost me. We're taping this on Monday before Monday Night Football. So my buddy told me, if you meet me up at the sports bar, buy me all the wings I can eat and all the drinks I can eat, I will give you a free ticket to come down to Missouri and watch the Alabama game with me on Saturday. So guess what? That's the trade-off.
You gonna wear a big red shirt, or you gonna go in incognito, or are you gonna wear your Nebraska gear?
I'm going to wear my Nebraska gear. I'm an asshole.
Boy.
Oh, hell yeah. I won't go that deep, but I put up with them here. But nonetheless, Scott, I know we're going to let people go. Scott's got a great show with those opening line moves with Scott Rickenbach here on the channel. Scott's got all kinds of free plays and shows during the week. You hear him around the country everywhere, even some spots on VSiN. So be sure and look for Scott this week, coming off a 9-1 week. Great week, Scott. Congratulations. And of course, we're not going to leave you without giving you an early look ahead pick here before the lines get crazy.
Yeah, this line has moved, but I still like it. And I used them last week. By the time Saturday rolled around, they had moved from 15.5 to 20.5, and yet still won 47-7. That was our 7-star play on Saturday. That would be Old Dominion. True believer in this team. They've gone from 12.5 to 14. Now, there are some 14.5s out there, but it's about half the books have 14, half have 14.5. Nice revenge spot if you like revenge. I'm not big into revenge, but it is a revenge spot. 42-35 loss to Marshall last year. They lost because they had a -2 turnover margin. They had 2 turnovers. Marshall had none. This kid, Colton Joseph, I hit on him earlier so I could segue into this. He's legit at quarterback as a college QB. I mean, dual threat and then some. How about 433 rushing yards for the QB on over 8 yards per carry? And since losing to Indiana in Bloomington, and by the way, they held the Hoosiers to 27 points in that loss. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Since that game, Tony, Colton Joseph, 12 touchdown passes, 1 interception, running for over 8 yards per pop. I think ODU gets it done again. And I know that line's moved up at -14 over Marshall.
Didn't he light up Virginia Tech too when he played them?
Yeah, he's a transfer. Oh, you mean? Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about
Virginia Tech with ODU.
Yeah, they beat him by 19. They beat him by 19 in that game, 45-26.
I switched over watching because I saw ODU's beating VT.
Yeah.
I watched that quarterback. I go, who the hell's this kid?
He's not going to win the Heisman, but he should be mentioned in the mix for some of the guys that got in there right now. And maybe he shouldn't win the Heisman because of the schedule they play, but he's as good as anybody at his position right now in college football.
There you go, folks. ODU sneaking up on people with one of the better quarterbacks in the country, Scott Spreitzer, one of the best to ever lace them up. He knows how to judge them and assess talent. Be sure and get his wares at DocSports.com. Shows all week long over here at Docs. I got the Docs Daily. I got the NFL Opening Line Report, Gridiron Six-Pack, and the Prop Madness Show on Friday. You can find me and Scott over there Doc Sports, be there, be square. Thanks for tuning in. Back at you next Monday.